If you grew up in the early 2000s watching cartoons, there's no doubt in my mind you've stumbled across the SpongeBob SquarePants episode. The episode is titled "Have You Seen the Snail?" and it's widely recognized as one of, if not the saddest episodes SpongeBob has ever had. However, I feel as if our heartstrings were never really attached to SpongeBob's situation itself. Instead, we found something deeply relatable in the story that the episode portrayed. Whether you had a pet or not, it was easy to understand the concept of losing something so close and dear to your heart. For this reason, us seeing SpongeBob almost grieving over his lost pet was uncomfortable and even worse yet, depressing. Now, you've clicked on the title of this video likely because you remember that devastating montage of SpongeBob looking for his pet Gary, or specifically the song that accompanied it. The song's name is pretty straightforward, being called Gary's Song, performed by award-winning singer-songwriter Stu. The song follows the story of SpongeBob's desperation for finding his pet and best friend Gary, who's abandoned SpongeBob after being neglected and forgotten about. So why would this song be so sad to us when the victim, in this case being Gary, managed to escape this toxic environment? Well, it all traces back to intent and how SpongeBob never really meant to deprive Gary from food. Instead, he was hyper-fixated on doing something else, and his lack of responsibility led him to suffer the consequences. This is something regular people go through. We fixate on a new idea, which in turn leads us to forgetting the things that truly matter in life. After SpongeBob realizes his only company is now gone, the burden of his mistakes weigh heavy on his soul. This is reflected perfectly with the song Gary Come Home, or I guess Gary's Song. That's why honestly this is one of my favorite songs of all time. I still unironically listen to it often, just like any other regular song. Although, what even makes this song so sad in the first place? I mean, yeah, the circumstances obviously suck and the lyrics themselves don't make it any happier. Well, as a fellow musician myself who studied music in the past, I can assure you that there's a lot more going on than you might think. By the way, I'm not like the greatest music theory person out there, do not subscribe to me for that. I'm just here to share some of the knowledge that I do have to give you a better understanding of the song. Before that though, let's do a quick recap of the episode for those of you who might have forgotten. After SpongeBob receives a package containing a paddleball set, he finds a promo letter inside that grabs his attention. The letter proposes a challenge in which whoever can beat the world record for paddling is deemed the winner, I guess. SpongeBob gets way too caught up in beating this record that he even forgets to feed Gary for about 10 days. Patrick eventually comes looking for SpongeBob and makes him realize that he's been obsessing over this challenge for a while now. This is when SpongeBob realizes that Gary is now gone in search of a new owner. This absolutely crushes his soul. In an attempt to get him back, SpongeBob has Patrick help him hand out written apologies all over town, hoping Gary stumbles across one of them. Meanwhile, Gary finds himself comfortable after being rescued by a grandma who mistakes him as one of her former pets. This doesn't last very long after he finds out that he's only being fed so she could eat him. Around the same time, he also sees one of SpongeBob's written apologies, so he's quick to go find him. Some more sobbing later, and they both happily reunite. SpongeBob is now placing more importance on Gary and prioritizing his needs over some dumb game. Honestly, this is one of the better SpongeBob episodes out there, but this isn't a ranking video, so let's dive into the song that makes this episode so iconic. Let's start from the very basics. This song is written in G major. Now, listen to this G major scale and tell me how it sounds to you. Pretty happy, right? Which is odd. I mean, minor scales are supposed to be the chords that typically sound sad. So what's actually going on? Well, there are two minor chords very prevalent to this piece, them being B minor and E minor. Yet, for the most part, they're all major chords. The thing is that this song uses a technique called unsolved harmonic suspension. This means that instead of a progression ending where it started, which is called the tonic note, it ends in something more dissonant sounding or unresolved. Dissonance being the thing that almost keeps you uneasy and tense. Since the song is written in G major, which is the home chord for this particular case, but often ends in A or D, this keeps the listener longing for a resolution. This song is depressing, so there are many times where we don't get one. Another thing that makes this song very sad is the piano and string combo, historically known for being commonly used in orchestras. Now, you know classical music motherfuckers love their tragic storytelling and songwriting, so a common tactic they used to convey this was the piano and string arrangements. This is still a very popular way to make listeners cry in music. I mean, I've even done it myself. When playing the piano, you produce a sound with a quick attack followed by decay. I'll elaborate on that soon. This can evoke a sense of melancholy or sadness. This This, alongside the strings with a slower attack, allows the sound to feed off of the emptiness after a key is played. I know, you're like, what the f just spewed outside of your mouth, Oppi? Well, the main components here are attack and delay. Essentially, the faster the attack is, the quicker the sound plays out in its entirety. The slower the attack is, you could think of it as more dragged out and patient to play in full. The piano has a faster attack since playing a key gives you an immediate result, yet with strings, the attack is a lot slower as the sound builds up and drags for longer. So when the piano smooths out and kinda takes a break, the strings shine through that decay, and that can create a feeling of stress or being overwhelmed for the listener. For this reason, you're able to feel that with Gary's song, not to mention the punchy staccato or quote-unquote stabs that you hear throughout, creating an even bigger dramatic effect. The BPM for this song, beats per minute, or more widely known as tempo, is also extremely slow. Typically for sadder songs, this is the way to go, as it gives more time for the listener to basically wallow in the melody. For example, that Squidward listening to music and crying meme. I mean, you'd assume he's listening to a slower tempo while lying on his bed. The opposite can be said when you're listening to workout music. More often than not, you're listening to songs with a higher BPM. Science has proven that slower tempos lower heart rate in contrast to higher ones that pump you up. Hence the sad Bart music you listen to when you hate life, because in a way, it calms you down. Not that I'm saying all relaxing music has to be sad, but that's where the category falls under. Now you know why Gary's song made every little kid emotional. That and the fact that the person might have tied the song to their own personal experiences. It really is a wonderfully crafted piece though, and I hope in future generations to come, the song is not forgotten. Fun fact, according to the SpongeBob Encyclopedia, apparently this song was inspired or reminiscent of another artist named Gilbert O'Sullivan. The song in question is called Alone Again Naturally, and if you love Gary's song as much as I do, you'll probably enjoy it. Anyways, that's all folks. If you notice my tone was a little different, I'm sorry, I didn't intend on getting a little tipsy off the Bob Crunk, but hey, it happens. Anyways, I'll see y'all in the next video.
If only I could hear you meow one last time. Meow. Yeah, like that. Gary, your purring is making it hard to forget you. Gary!
What a sigma, what a sigma. Oh,